In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Faracaba, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. So on behalf of Biohackers Magazine today, we want to explore a few parts of the magic brain that you have, talk about your book, and talk about all the things that you try to give people, the tools that you give people to improve their brain, their performance, and overall their health. Before we get started on that, would you mind to just give us a short brief on where you're coming from and what brought you here in this adventure of brain optimization?
It's so good to be here. Thanks again for having me and everyone who's tuning in. As you mentioned, I'm a brain performance coach, helping people to optimize their brain and also giving them skills to learn faster, accelerated learning. My inspiration really was my desperation. I didn't have these abilities natural. There's something that I learned through training and discipline. I would say that if people see me at events that you and I are at, various longevity events or biohacking conferences, if there's time, I'll do these demonstrations where I'll memorize 100 people's names in an audience, or people will give me 100 random words or 100 numbers, and I'll remember them forwards and backwards. But I always tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible, because the truth is every single person here, they could do it too, regardless of their age and background, career, education level, financial situation, gender, history, IQ. We just weren't taught. You know, your brain is the most incredible supercomputer on the planet, but it doesn't come with an owner's manual, and it's not user friendly. So that's why I wrote Limitless, to give people an owner's manual for your brain so you could use it. Because once you understand how your brain works, you could work your brain better. The reason why I know it's possible for everybody is I grew up with severe learning challenges. When I was 5 years old, I was in school and I took a very bad fall and I went headfirst into a radiator and I was knocked out. I was rushed to the emergency room. What came from it was I would have focus issues, memory issues. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read. And that was every single day I struggled. I would have these migraines every single day as a child, and I just thought it was normal. I also ended up losing my grandmother, who was my primary caregiver, to Alzheimer's when I was 7 years old. So watching her brain and memory deteriorate, even I get emotional thinking about it, where she would call me by my father's name, or she would repeat something she just said 30 seconds ago. It really informed what I do today. We donated all the proceeds to Limitless, to educational charities, to build schools around the world, also for Alzheimer's research, in memory of my grandmother. When I was 9 years old, I was slowing down the class, and because I didn't understand the lessons as fast as everybody else, and I was being teased for it, a teacher came to my defense. She pointed to me in front of the whole class and said, "Leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain." And so that label became my limit. Everyone in school would call me that. And that really affected my own belief, my self-esteem. Even my inner talk was always, if I did badly on a quiz or a test, which was all the time, or I wasn't picked for sports, which was all the time, I would say, it's because I have the broken brain. And so eventually, when I was 18, I found a mentor. And I started to study neuroscience and mindset, accelerated learning, ancient mnemonics from different ancient civilizations, how they remembered things, speed reading, and this whole plethora of research on how you could get the most out of your brain, to focus, to be able to motivate yourself, to be able to read faster, comprehend, do remarkable things, remember facts and figures and formulas. And then life it it turned around, and I started tutoring, and one of my very first students, she was a freshman in college. She read 30 books in 30 days, and not skim or scan, but really read. I mean, can you imagine that? Like going online, picking 30 books and biohacking and wellness, longevity, and
Wow.
read them. And I wanted to find out not how. I taught her how. I know how she did it. I want to know why. I'm insanely obsessed with why some people learn something and they apply it and
Mhm.
other people don't, right?
Mhm.
And I found out that her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Doctors gave her mother only 60 days, about 2 months to live. So the books she was reading were books to save her mom's life.
Mhm.
And she ended up doing so. And when I found that news that her mother 6 months later is not only survived, but is thriving, it made me realize that if knowledge is power, then learning is our superpower, and it's a superpower we all have. It's just like a lot of things in your magazine, it's just not taught in
Yeah.
school, right?
Mm.
School teaches you what to learn, math, history, science, but there are not a lot of classes on how to learn. There's no class on how to focus or how to get into flow or how to optimize your brain health or how to read faster or how to remember things. And I think one of the most important skills for everybody here in this community is there's so much research. There's so many things that you want to look into from podcasts and you do in books.
Mhm.
But your ability to learn rapidly and translate that learning into action is the ultimate competitive advantage. And so, I've dedicated the past 3 decades of my life to doing this, and we do it through our books, through our podcasts, through our YouTube. We have the largest online
Platform.
course
Yeah.
and programs in the world
Mm.
for these subjects, and it's our mission to build better, brighter brains. No brain left behind.
I love it. Tell me, learning is some things, memorizing, it's a different pattern in the brain. The capacity of learning faster, it's probably some things that you master more than others. But how do you help people to memorize? Because some people actually don't lack of focus for reading or for getting the information, but to retain the information, it's a different concept, and it's a variable into the process.
Yeah, memory is so very important now for everybody, more
Hmm.
important than ever. It's one of those things where I believe there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and there are untrained memory. And so we have never taken a class like going to somebody on your team or someone, a family member, and pointing to them, say, memorize this is like going to somebody and saying, play the ukulele or play the didgeridoo, musical instrument that if they've had no training, they can't do
Hmm.
it. And I feel the same thing is with our memory. I believe two of the most costly words in life are I forgot. Think
True.
about the consequences, right? Of saying, I forgot what I just read. I forgot what I was
Yeah.
going to say. I forgot what they said to me. I forgot to go to that meeting. I forgot
Yeah.
that person's name, right? It just goes on and on. And on the other side, memory could be a big multiplier in your life when you can easily remember the things for work or school, facts and figures, client information, product information. I know you speak, like I do, and be able to memorize your speech. It just makes things a lot easier. You come across much more as a professional. We live in an expert economy where the faster you can learn, the faster you can earn. Because
True.
knowledge today is not only power, knowledge is profit. And
Hmm.
so, to be able to improve your memory, we focus on three areas. And I tell people to remember MOM, MOM, simple acronym. Let's say you want to remember names better, right? And most people struggle with remembering
Of
names,
course. Yeah.
right?
I
Yes.
do. Sometimes I do too, to
And
be
you meet so
honest.
many people at your events and people know
Yeah,
you
that's the
and
thing. Yeah.
it's a challenge. And I think it's the number one business etiquette skill there is, because how are you going to show somebody you're going to care for their future, their health, their longevity, their
Hmm.
family, if you don't care enough just to remember their name, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
True.
And so remembering names is very important. So let's say you want to remember names, going back to the MOM. Let's say there was a suitcase, or a luggage full of money. And I know you have people around the world, readers and subscribers and viewers. So a suitcase full of money, and it's yours if you just remember the name of the next stranger that you meet. Most people are going to remember that person's name now. So as a
Now, yes.
memory Right, exactly. As a memory or a brain coach, I want to call people on their BS, their belief systems. It's not true that you can't remember names. It's just that suitcase provides the M in mom, which is motivation, right? So it had nothing to do with their capability. It had everything to do with whether or not they wanted to. They were incentivized to
Mm,
do so. So before I go into the actual methods, I just want to remind people that if you really cared about what you're listening to right now or what you're reading, a lot of people will read a page in a book and forget what they just read, right? How embarrassing. They go back and reread it and still forget. But if you really
mm,
tapped into the motivation, like all the benefits that would come from even listening or reading this right now, all the benefits that would come, and it goes from your head to your heart to your hands. You know, a lot of people have goals in their head about how they want their body to be, their energy levels, their mind, their income, whatever. But if they're not acting with their hands to get what's in their head, then check in with the second H, which is your heart, right? Because we are not logical, but we are very biological. If you think about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, we're this chemical feeling soup. And if we don't feel something, we're not going to do it. So always start with reasons because reasons will give you results. Right? Reasons reap results, reap rewards. And so even when you meet somebody, ask yourself, why do I want to remember this person's name? Maybe it's to show the person some respect. Maybe it's to practice these things that I learned, that I just learned in this conversation. And if you come up with a couple of reasons, you're more likely to remember because you don't remember all names, but nobody forgets all names. And I'm willing to bet that people that you remember are the people that you're motivated to remember. Maybe they could be good
mm.
for your business, or maybe you're attracted to them. There's some kind of
Yeah.
feeling, right? And the O in mom is the second key to a better memory. O is observation. So a lot of people, when they forget people's names or something else, they blame their retention when it's really their attention. The art of memory is the art of attention. The story I'll share with everybody is I remember I was at a charity event. It was 2,000 people, and I always arrive early at things, and I go to my assigned table, and I'm the first one there. But after I sit down, shortly afterwards, the Oscar-winning actor Forrest Whitaker sits right next to me, and then Richard Branson sits next to him, and then Ashton Kutcher and his twin brother
Mm,
sit down. And then President Clinton sits right next to me. And when he sat down, he called me by my name. I had met him a couple years earlier, very briefly, and he remembered my name when he sat down. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then I was like, oh, of course he knew he was sitting with, right? Like people prepped him.
mm.
And then I swear to you, he picks up the conversation we had a couple years earlier, and nobody was privy to that conversation. Regardless of politics, right? Most people would say that Clinton is high levels of charisma, is a great connector, great communicator. He also has an incredible memory. And I had to ask him, I was like, I'm the memory coach. I need to know how you're able to remember all of this. And he tells me a story of his grandfather in Arkansas in the living room. He would, with the kids, he would tell stories to them. But afterwards, he would quiz each one on one to see if they were paying attention. Right. And even when he was describing this to me, I almost felt uneasy because I felt like I was the only one in the room when he was talking to me. Even though there's 2,000 people in the room that are more important than me, or even at that table, certainly more important than me. I felt like he was so there with me. Have you ever met somebody that you just feel like,
It's like, yeah, focus on you.
yeah,
You probably, yes.
yes. It's one of,
You are
it's
like that.
and you have that same kind of quality. I could see that in our interactions when I see you at events, because a lot of times you're meeting somebody and they're looking over your shoulder,
True.
or you could tell they're not really there.
Yeah.
And so I realized that President Clinton's incredible memory and his powerful presence with people came from being powerfully present with people. Meaning his incredible memory and his powerful presence came from being powerfully present. And who could do that, right? All
It's
of us could do that.
difficult.
It
Yeah,
is definitely
yeah,
difficult.
it is. But because you know what? The question I have on that, Jim, is today the attention span of people is going, yeah, shorter and shorter and shorter. Yeah, because mainly of social media. But how we reverse that thing, that's
Yeah.
a big job. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that and how to do that in a
Yeah.
moment. But the O stands for observation, meaning that to really pay
Yeah.
attention, because it's not your retention, it's often your attention. The art of memory is the art of attention. The art of memory is the art of attention, and so most people aren't paying attention because what are they doing in a conversation? They're usually thinking about what they're going to say or waiting for
Mm.
their turn to speak. And if you take a word like listen, and people write it down or just imagine in their head. Brain exercise is to kind of move the letters around and you could spell another word with those same letters perfectly. It spells the word silent.
Silent. Yeah.
Yeah. So just being present, everyone on this incredible supercomputer between your ears, right? 86 billion
Billions. Yeah.
neurons. And, each one has upwards of thousands and upwards of 10,000 synaptic connections, so those connections could be more than there are stars in the known universe. Yet the challenge is you can remember, one or two words, someone's name, but often our focus is somewhere else. And so a focus is like a spotlight. And
True.
and I could talk about, that attention span, we
Hmm.
should address because the last M besides motivation and observation for mom are the methods. And the methods are the strategies, the techniques on how to remember names, how to learn a language, how to give a speech without notes, how to read 3 times faster, right? The things that are in Limitless and, in our courses. But I just put it last because I think 80% of success really is that psychology of the mindset and the motivation we have to be able to remember someone's name. But one of the things people could do to remember things better, something very simple, is to exercise our focus. So I believe focus is not something you have, it's something that you do.
Develop. Yeah.
I think a big part of Limitless, one of the core principles is taking the nouns in our life and turning them into verbs. Well, what does that mean? A lot of times we hypnotize ourselves into submission by saying things like, I don't have energy today. I don't have focus. I don't have a good memory. I don't have motivation. These things are not nouns. I treat them more like verbs. So you don't have focus, you do it. You don't have energy. There's a process for generating energy, which, a lot of the content that you share on social media and the magazine is how to have more vitality, more
Nice. Yeah.
energy, right? How to optimize your sleep. What's
Mm.
a, powerful diet? How do you manage stress that removes energy out of your system? And so what I would say is take the nouns, turn them into verbs. You don't have motivation. You do it. You don't have creativity. There's a process for being creative, and you don't have focus. There's a process for focusing,
Together.
and also remember that focus, going back to the power of attention, is like a muscle. It's use it or lose it. But you're absolutely right with our
Yeah.
devices. With every ring, ping, ding, app notification, social media alert, it flexes our distraction muscles, and we wonder why we can't focus in a conversation,
Yeah.
or when you're with your kids, or when you're talking to a client, or you're on a Zoom. And one of the big challenges is first thing in the morning, the first thing they touch is their distraction device.
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible to do. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
I
not
think
educated for that most of the time. It's just like yeah, they should like we always tell people, and I put emphasis on that is like don't touch your phone before a certain time and shut it down before at least 2, 3 hours before you go to bed. Otherwise, you're not gonna get your life on track. True.
It's one of the most important things because think about it, especially when you wake up and you go to bed. I agree with you completely because when you wake up, you're in the most relaxed state you probably will be in all day when you come out of that kind of
True.
rest.
Yeah.
And you're very suggestible in that state.
Mm.
And if the first thing you do is pick up your device, you wire your brain for two things that are hurting your productivity and your performance and your peace. Number one, you wire your brain for distraction.
Yeah.
Because again, every like, share, comment, cat video is driving you to distraction. You're flexing your distraction muscles, and how you do anything is how you do everything. And you wonder why you can't focus throughout the day. But the second reason why I would suggest waiting, at least like 30 minutes or an hour,
Yeah.
is you also wire your brain not only for distraction, you wire your brain for reaction. Meaning, I'm sure you've gone on your phone and you get a message on social media or a voicemail message or a WhatsApp, a text, an email, whatever, and it's not a positive message and it puts you in a mood for hours.
True.
Right. And you
Yep.
can't have a quality life, which everybody wants, if you're just reacting and fighting fires, right? It puts you on the defense first thing in the morning. And I have a friend, Brendan Burchard, who wrote Motivation Manifesto, and he says, your inbox is nothing but a convenient organizational system for other people's agenda for your life.
I
It's just
love it.
right. It's just like one of those things where why would you start your day taking care of everybody else's as opposed to focus? And so instead of that, because you can't just stop doing something, you have to start doing something else.
Right.
Instead of that, I challenge everyone to do this mental thought experiment. When you wake up in the morning, instead of touching your device, and for me, I put my device in the bathroom.
Yeah,
So
me too,
yeah,
in another room. Yeah.
one of the most important things, because there's a whole chapter on how to design habits. I believe first you create your habits, then your habits create you, is you want to make for your environment, you want to make the things that are good for you easy or easier, and you want to make the
Hmm.
things that are not so good for you more difficult, right? And so if you have the phone right by your nightstand, by your bed, it makes it really easy to grab it as opposed to owning your environment, being
Yeah.
responsible and putting it somewhere else. It's similar to like if you're out at a restaurant and the wait staff brings you bread, right? First thing, for most restaurants, it's easier to say no right there and control your environment because if the bread is sitting there, you have to say no 50 times inside your mind.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So we control that environment. So instead of touching your phone, it's in another room. And what do you do instead? This thought experiment. When you wake up, just close your eyes for like 60 seconds. And I do this thought experiment where I imagine myself coming back to bed and I had a full day and my wife asked me, how was your day? And I imagine I'm saying, wow, it was wonderful. Today, we crushed it today. It was incredible. And then I asked myself, what had to happen in order for me to feel that way, to say those things? And I come up with three things personally and three things professionally. And that's my focus for the day, those six things. And I
So
really
you set your intention that way, like that.
very much so.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it's not just time management, it's about priority management
Hmm.
and mind management.
Yeah.
So, and when it comes to priority management, the most important thing is to keep the most important things, the most important things, right? And we don't want to get
Yeah.
really good at things that don't matter. When people have a to-do list of 50, 100, 200 different things that just grows all the time, focusing on that lead domino. The lead domino, if people grow up playing dominoes, it's the one domino you hit and everything gets easier after that.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I focus on three things personally and three things professionally, and I work backwards, from there. And so that keeps me from picking up my phone and being distracted and then being distracted the rest of the day or being reactive the rest of the day. And it makes me proactive and focused on the things that will make it a win. Because so many people, if you watch sports, they know when it's time to celebrate because the scoreboard will tell you that you won.
Yeah.
But do you have a scoreboard each day for the game of life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is way more important. I don't watch TV anyway. Uh, Question for you, Jim. I don't have TV actually. Question for you. Now your life has changed. You have children. Your time has probably shifted in a way or the other. Did you adjust your routine accordingly to that? Because
Yeah.
kids take time.
So even without, children, my life is pretty busy. I
Yeah.
travel.
But
I could be on, as a speaker for 30 years, I could be on three continents in 1 week.
yeah.
Right. So it's always, and then, we're on a mission, to help people. And so it's very, jam-packed every day, certainly. So I know my suggestions, I don't have a 3-hour morning routine. My
Okay.
morning routine really, I could do in 15 minutes or less. And a lot of people could do some of their morning routines with their children also as well, right?
Okay. Yeah. Putting
Simple
them in.
things that you could do like gratitude, or so for example, I read years ago that when we're talking about biohacking, and while I have multiple saunas and float tank and hard hyperbaric chambers and also my favorite things to do, nature is really the thing that really enriches my life and
Yeah.
rejuvenates me. And I read years ago that in ancient times, Babylonian times, ancient Greek, they used to think that everything was made out of four elements. Everything in the universe was made out of four elements: air, fire, water, and earth. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And so my morning routine really is simplified, especially when I travel and I don't have access to these fancy
Hmm.
devices, is how do I get those four elements into my system first thing in the morning? So, for example, this morning I woke up and I go outside barefoot, right? And that
Nice.
so I have earth, right? So
Yeah.
I'm getting the earth
Yeah.
element into me. There's an electron exchange, and I just feel more
20
grounded.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. About 20, I could feel it, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to it. And then what am I also doing? I'm getting fire from the sun.
The sun.
And so important to reset your circadian rhythm for people that especially have sleep issues to get direct sunlight outside, not through a filtered window, because that
Hmm.
could filter out certain spectrums of light, as you know. But getting that sunlight, even if it's hazy, the research shows, or foggy, you still get the benefit.
Yeah.
Because remember, your eye is the only part of your brain
Brain. Yeah.
that's
Outside. Yeah.
outside of your
Yeah.
skull. And so it helps to reset your circadian rhythm and help you sleep better at night. So that's earth and the sun is fire. And then what will I do? I'll hydrate
Of
also.
course, water, you need that for your brain because your brain shrinks during the night. So you need to put it
Yes.
back on track. Yeah.
Exactly. We could lose upwards of almost a pound of water at night
Yeah.
through
Heard that.
respiration, through perspiration.
Yeah.
And on our podcast, we were talking, we had a neuroscientist, nutritionist on, Dr. Lisa Mosconi, and she was saying even a 2% dehydration mark could impair your cognitive health and performance. And staying hydrated could boost your reaction time, your thinking speed upwards of 30%, right? So
Wow.
I'll have water and it's structured in some way. Maybe it has some electrolytes,
Hmm.
potassium, magnesium, sodium. But I'll get the water in to hydrate. And so that's the water element. So we have
So we
grounding
have the
earth, we
three.
have the
Yeah.
sun, fire, we have the water, and then the final element is air. And so that's where I'll do some breathing exercise. And everybody has their different fire breathing, alpha breathing, Wim Hof
Yeah. They all
breathing.
work anyway.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
main thing is just for me, it just clears the mental cobwebs out. And this whole experience that I'm talking about, it doesn't take time, a lot of time, and it
Mhm.
doesn't cost anything, right? And I can do it in 15 minutes. And maybe when I'm doing my breathing, I'm visualizing my six things, or I'm
Wow.
thinking about gratitude, and it puts me in that kind of grounded state. And I'm just everybody has their morning routine. My morning routine really is how to get my brain right so I can win that day. Because if you want to win the day, you have to win that first hour of the day. So 15 minutes, and this is something people could even do with children, right?
Yeah.
Hydration,
Yeah.
gratitude, sunlight,
Yeah.
outside, some simple breathing exercise, hydration. And and while we go into certainly more of the biohacking in the book and our podcast, it sets a good foundation that's
Yeah.
easily replicatable.
Yeah, and I think, it's great even if you do it with your children's, because the problem we have in our generation is like we have not been educated that way. Now it's time for us to educate our child to do it so they can educate their child. And in 2 or 3 generations from now, the world is going to be completely different and it's going to be a natural process for everyone to do those things. And I'm just dreaming about that.
Yeah, no,
That's what is
I'm
going
on
to
this. I literally got goosebumps when you said that.
happen.
I call them truth bumps. But when you teach a child, you teach their children. When you
Yeah.
teach children, you're teaching their children also as well.
Mhm.
And I believe the life we live are the lessons that you teach. The life you live are the lessons that you teach
I love
others.
that.
I think that a
Yeah.
lot of us in the community, we want to change the people around us. And it's difficult because changing somebody else is difficult. Just think about how difficult it is to change
To
ourselves,
change. Yeah, yeah.
much less change somebody else. But what we can do is be an example for them
True.
and
Yeah.
inspire with the
Yeah.
results that we get. And instead of talking about it, instead of saying it, show the people around
Over
you.
the
Instead of
people.
promising people, prove it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like positivity and performance is contagious, right?
I agree.
Do that.
I agree. Yeah,
Others just
we
go through
we
the
we need
routine.
more people positive and with energy more and more. Many people are spending their time to be negative or to be destroying everything that is wrong. I think it's like, yes, we need to put that positivity. After all, life is beautiful and we're here to improve. One question for you that was in my mind at a certain moment was like, if you read 3 times faster, do you need three time more rest and memorizing, like processing the memories and stuff like that? Or is it you can read 3 times faster and still process all memories at night and cleaning? Or you see where I want to go? Like, do you need to sleep 3 times more because you learn 3 times faster or not?
That's an interesting question. We have students in every country in the world, 195 nations. And, the feedback we're getting for people is it's about efficiency. And often when we're more efficient, it takes actually less energy, right? When you're really good at
Sure.
something, it doesn't require the same level of energy as it would be for somebody who struggles with reading, right?
Mm,
Or struggles with hiking up a hill.
it's
Because for
true.
that person who's not trained, it's going to take it more energy or to learn something new because it requires more effort and energy
Mm,
because their mental muscles aren't maybe in shape, or their physical muscles if it's some kind of physical challenge that they want to overcome, or an obstacle course or something. So what I would say is, reading we focus on, and we have in our Instagram, we have a link there that people could take a free 1 hour masterclass on
yeah,
how to
yeah,
double your reading speed. But it's also comprehension. So it's not just speed reading, it's smart reading. But the reason I bring this up is if somebody has decades of experience, like yourself, right? And you put it into a book and somebody could read that book in a few days, then they could download decades into days, which is an incredible advantage. Right. If you
mhm,
can read books on the things subject that matter to you. And besides that, though, reading is one of the best brain training exercises you could do. I mean, reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body, right?
yeah,
And they say leaders are readers. You read so you can succeed faster, right? For any
yeah,
problem that people are facing right now in their life, or if there's a gap between where you are and where you want to go, somebody's written a book on that subject,
true.
right? And so I think
Yeah,
reading is a wonderful exercise, and you can read faster and actually understand more with less effort just because you're good at it. Meaning that, let's say you want to type, right? When I was in school, I didn't do well in any subject except for typing, because when I used to visit great aunt and grandparents, they would have no toys, but just a rusty, dusty typewriters for me to practice and play with, right? So when I got into middle school, there was a class called typing, and I realized I'm dating myself because there weren't computers back then. I'm in my 50s, so it's one of those things. But I'm typing with using 2 fingers, and I would be on the leaderboard on the chalkboard. I'd be number one. But then a week later, they would say, "This is how you type using all your fingers and home keys," and I tried it, but then my typing speed went down, and I started falling from number one to number three to seven to, not even the top 10. And then I realized, wait, everybody else is doing better than me because it's unfair. They're using 5 times more fingers, but they're working smart. They don't have to require the same amount of energy because I'd have to go like this, very, very
yeah,
fast in order to
yeah,
keep up and expend more energy because I'm not working efficiently. I was working hard, but not smart. And I would say that, with reading, the last time people took a reading class, if it's a trainable skill, how old were we? Like 6, 7 years old? So the difficulty and demand has increased a lot, but how we actually read it is the same as when we were children.
oh,
And
yeah,
so, part of it is the amount of information is doubling at dizzying speed. How you learn it's the same. That growing gap creates a big health condition called information anxiety. The
yeah,
symptoms are higher blood pressure, compression of leisure time, more sleeplessness,
yeah,
right? And so the goal is to upgrade our learning skills and strategies to be able to meet that demand so we don't have to struggle with that overload. Nowadays, it feels like people buy books and they sit on your shelf. unread, right? And become shelf help, not self help. And that's a challenge. But I really want to remind everybody for every hour you spend learning something, including, consuming this conversation right now, it's so important to spend an equal hour putting into action, because it's a myth that
No doubt.
knowledge is power, right? And knowledge is not power. It has the potential to be power. It becomes power when we apply and we use it.
Yeah, it's so true. That is like the only way to use it. Do you think that because of artificial intelligence and probably Neuralink, we're
Yeah.
going to get downloading the books instead of reading them? It's going to be a pity, but
Yeah, I'm excited about technology.
yeah.
Very pro technology. It's just how it's applied. I mean, think about technology allows this conversation to happen,
Hmm.
right?
Correct.
And it's just how it's utilized. Like fire is probably the earliest form of technology. Fire can be used to cook your food, or fire can be used to burn down your home. It's just how it's applied, right?
Yeah.
And I would say AI, we do a whole chapter on how in Limitless on how to use AI to enhance your HI. Yes, your human intelligence,
Hmm.
right? And for me, AI is not artificial intelligence. I look at it more like augmented intelligence. It's there to augment, you partner with it, it supports you, right? And so we do a whole chapter on how to use AI to enhance your HI, your human intelligence. Like, for example, simple. Like I was mentioning, I have a podcast, and if I'm interviewing an expert and they happen to write a book, and I like to read on print books, right? Because I don't need
Hmm.
another excuse to be on digital. I'll read it when I travel online, but maybe I don't get the book in time for some reason, and I'll go into AI and I'll just say, can you summarize this book, right? In X amount, and that gives me a nice summary of the book. That's a
Hmm.
way of learning using AI to enhance your HI. I could ask it saying, hey, I'm interviewing this expert. Can you propose 10 questions
Hmm.
that they haven't been asked before that would be really wonderful for this audience, right? Or let's say you and I talk about some of the phenomenons of the brain. Talk about neuroplasticity, and one of your readers aren't familiar with that term, they can go into a chat GPT and say,
That's
explain to
cool.
me neuroplasticity as if I am 10 years old,
Hmm.
right? And it will give you a nice foundation. You could use AI, it can measure your reading speed. AI can measure your reading comprehension. We have a quick bot for our
I was going
courses.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Please.
have an
Yeah.
AI in our platform where we've fed it all of our courses and more content that we haven't released in the public. So, our students could ask of it questions and it will respond based on my knowledge, skills, and abilities that we have trained it with remarkable accuracy, right? This allows AI allows personalized learning. You could use AI to do something called space repetition, which is a technique we teach in Limitless. It's one of the most well-studied techniques for improving recall, and AI can be used to schedule review sessions at optimal intervals that can help take it from a short-term to a long-term memory, convert it and integrate it. You could use AI for a process we talk about in Limitless called active recall. You could
Hmm.
use it to generate quizzes and exercises based on, your learning material to be able to retrieve active retrieval. You could use it for personalized learning, right? Because AI could adapt learning materials to an individual's learning style and the pace they like to learn to ensure that the information is processed in the most effective way. We teach something in Limitless called mind mapping, and, kind of a creative way of taking notes. So AI could create mind maps based on the material that you're studying. We talk about in Limitless memory palaces, what the ancient Greeks used to use 2,500 years ago to memorize poetry, and orators would memorize speeches. And if you're not familiar with the memory palace, you could just search my name, Memory Palace, on YouTube or
Yeah.
wherever. But it could actually, advanced AI could even be used to create a virtual memory palace inside your mind to give you specific locations to link, large amounts of information. You can use AI to give you reminders and alerts about upcoming tests and deadlines to trigger your memory. And there's just so much. I'm just so optimistic of how
Yeah.
technology could aid our learning endeavors.
Yeah, I'm optimistic as well. I think that it's going to help us as long as we don't. The only concern I have is like making sure that we're not submerged by fakes videos and
Oh yeah.
hacked off. Yeah, that's the only part. Like making fake news based on like that would look so real that people will fall into that trap. And
And
um,
that's
yeah,
even more of a reason. And I agree, there's a dark side for every
yeah,
technology. And that's why I think it's so important. And I know your community embraces this, that we take care of the most important technology, which is the human brain.
the
The
brain.
human
Yeah,
brain, which has created all technology outside of us,
yeah.
right? It's so more important now than ever to be able to have mental vitality and brain energy, be able to focus and concentrate, have critical thinking skills to be able to evaluate misinformation that's out there also as
It's
well. So it's
separated.
even,
Yeah,
and with AI, it's even created even more content, like you're taking a sip of water out of a fire hose. So that's
yeah.
why, taking care of your brain, learning how to learn faster to be able to process this incoming information. Because your brain with neuroplasticity, which is the phenomenon of our brain be able to make new connections even as we grow older, right, through every age
Yeah.
and stage. But the key to neuroplasticity is two things. It's novelty, which is learning, and nutrition, right? Just like if you want
Nutrition.
to build your body, you do exercise, you give it novelty, some kind of stimulus, and then you feed the body, with your essential amino acids, your creatine, whatever it
Mm.
happens to be, to build that body up. The same thing with your mental muscles.
So, in terms of nutrition, do you think that it is necessary for people to take some sort of supplement or substances? You talk about nootropics in your book. It's a new
Yeah.
chapter. Are these like required to improve, or you don't need that?
So for me, I think everyone's a little bio individual. Definitely talk to your health practitioner and
Of
and do
course.
and also have a baseline. Get a nutrient profile done to see what you
Hmm.
might be lacking. Vitamin B's, vitamin D levels, hormonal, because your hormones could obviously affect your brain in extreme ways. For me, my approach, and this is mine, but the principle mine is like I like to get most things through food. When we talk about some of my favorite brain foods in the book and how to memorize those foods. But if you're not getting it from your diet, then you might need to supplement with it. So for example, one of my favorite kind of go-to foods for the brain is like wild salmon or
Mm.
sardines, right? High those fatty fishes. But if you're not getting that in your diet, then maybe you need to supplement with omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like one of my favorite brain foods also happens to be eggs. But if you don't have eggs in your diet, or if that's not part of, maybe that's not something that people would work for them, then the choline in eggs is so very important. It's a nutrient found in eggs or source or like things like soybeans, but it plays a vital role in brain health. It's a crucial component of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter that supports memory and cognitive health and performance. So you might need to be able to supplement, right? Even talking about your B vitamins,
Hmm.
which is vital for brain health, aid in the production of brain chemicals that affect your mood and other brain functions. But if you're not getting your diet, you might need to supplement magnesium, right?
Magnesium to sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it's vital for brain health
Yeah.
and for overall, like most of the physiological functions is dependent on magnesium, and it could promote learning, memory, mood, sleep, as you mentioned. But if you're not getting that in your diet, you might need to supplement. So those are like brain supplements. The nootropics or nootropics, how people pronounce it,
Hmm.
that's a new chapter in the book. These are substances that can enhance cognitive function, particularly executive functions like memory, creativity. It can affect your motivation. And so we put an extensive list of the most current ones with human studies at brainnutrition.com. And so people could see the most recent ones that are well researched that, myself, that we recommend our team and our clients use. But in no specific order, you have things that you're very familiar with, like ashwagandha, right? It's an adaptogenic herb. It improves mental and physical resilience, may reduce stress and anxiety, potentially improve cognitive function. There's something that we talk about in Limitless. It's a whole food, a whole coffee fruit extract. This is the whole fruit from the coffee plant. It's usually a byproduct, that is discarded, but it has strong antioxidant effects, neuroprotective effects, positive impact on cognitive function. Another nootropic is phosphatidylserine.
Hmm.
This is a phospholipid that is an integral part of brain cell membranes, shown to improve memory, learning, cognitive function. Another one, L-theanine, is an amino
Theanine.
acid. I'm drinking it right now, and if you're watching this on video,
Ah.
it's green tea. It promotes relaxation
Hmm.
without the drowsiness that can enhance brain function. Another one we talk about in there in Limitless is Bacopa. Bacopa is an herb used in Ayurvedic medicine to improve cognition and memory. Another one, rhodiola, is a
Portfolio,
Scandinavian.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Scandinavian herb that has been shown to reduce mental fatigue and also improve cognitive function. Then again, if
Yeah,
people can get it,
curcumin too is one of the newest trend on brain optimization as well.
which one's this? Yeah,
Curcumin. Yeah,
so curcumin is an active ingredient
yeah,
in turmeric. So if not getting that
yeah.
from the food turmeric, right, then you might need a supplement. So I go
Mm.
for food, but if you're not getting food supplementation, and it's something I supplement with also as well. It has potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. It's some studies suggest that it could also cross the blood-brain barrier, leads to improvement in cognitive function,
Yeah,
particularly in patients with Alzheimer's. So that's interesting. Lion's mane mushroom is another
lion's
one.
mane
It
mushroom. Yeah,
has, a
oh,
neuroprotective effects. It's been shown to potentially stimulate the synthesis of nerve growth factor. So it can enhance cognition by reducing inflammation, promoting overall brain health. Ginkgo biloba, which has long been used in Chinese medicine,
yeah.
thousands
For
of
a
years.
long time, very well known
Yeah.
actually as one. Yeah. So
Improve
yeah.
blood
Oh,
flow.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
blood
no, no,
flow. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
especially where the brain and even creatine. This is a substance that a lot of people use for
For
exercise,
sport. Yeah,
right? For
many.
sports, it's
Yeah,
commonly found in meat and fish, but it plays a crucial role, extremely well studied,
brain. Yeah,
for
yeah,
your brain and energy metabolism. There's a number of
yeah.
studies that show that creatine supplementation can improve cognitive function, especially in tasks that require short-term memory and quicker thinking.
Hmm.
So again, we put a comprehensive list with all the studies at brainnutrition.com, or obviously if people have the book, we
Yeah,
reference
the
all of
book
that as well.
and also talking about baselines and stuff like that. You have this quiz for
Yeah.
people. Can
So
we
this
talk
is
about it? Yeah.
yeah, so I realized that it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. And everybody has a
A
different
big
way of
difference.
yes, everyone has a different way of expressing that genius. And so sorry, so excuse me one second.
Don't worry. Yeah.
I because I have a 3 o'clock. So
Oh yeah,
um
do you have time for that? Or
yeah, yeah,
if you
no,
don't
no,
have time, Jim, that's fine. You can send me the pitch
no.
after, though. I don't want to rush you out.
No. Let me just, I could go for a few minutes. Let me just, sorry, let me just send this, my
I see the
assistant.
time pass. It's true. It's
It does.
fascinating. Could stay hours with you, listening and learning.
No,
Could
thank
learn.
you. Okay. Yeah, I could just go, if maybe I could wrap up in like 4 minutes, but,
Yeah,
let me
perfect.
tell you about, so one of the things I'm most excited about, in Limitless is a concept that we created called brain types. And the premise is, and I pulled from personality types like Myers-Briggs, introvert, extrovert, left brain, right brain theory, learning styles, multiple intelligence theory out of Harvard. And we create a 4-minute brain assessment, and people could get it at mybrainanimal.com, mybrainanimal.com, or the assessment's also in the book, Limitless. And what it does, it determines your cognitive type. So just like there's personalized medicine based on an assessment, like your genetics or DNA, there's
Hmm.
personalized nutrition based on a nutrient profile assessment or a microbiome test. We created a 4-minute assessment that we're offering free to your readers, and it can inform how you can learn better. So in the case of certain supplements or foods, not everything is for everybody, right? And same thing with learning. Not everybody learns the same way. So we've figured out that there are 4 main brain types, and I call it your brain code, CODE. And these are, we used animals as a kind of a fun way to identify with. The C in code stands for cheetahs. And your cheetah is somebody, their primary trait is action. These are individuals that adapt very quickly. They go on their intuition. They thrive in fast-paced environments. The O in code are your owls. And your owls, their primary trait is logic. They
Hmm.
love data, right? They love facts and they love
Yeah.
figures. Now just notice a cheetah and an owl would do things different, right? They would be convinced different. They would learn different. They would persuade or sell different, right? The D in code are your dolphins, and your dolphins, their primary trait is creativity.
Hmm.
That's what their brain is organized around. These are the individuals, great pattern recognition, great problem solvers. Dolphins, you can usually have a vision for their life or their business that other people can't yet see because they think in a lot in those pictures. And then finally, the E in code are your elephants, and their primary dominant trait is empathy. And these are individuals that have high levels of compassion. They are the glue that holds teams together. They are your community builders. And it's interesting. We had our team take this assessment, and 100% of our customer service team, there are elephants. And it's interesting because they have high levels of empathy
Wow.
and they are our community builders. They want people to feel seen and feel heard. And we didn't hire them based on that assessment, but people will
Dedicated.
naturally
Uh-huh.
go towards their strengths. Like our CEO, my business partner, she's a dolphin.
Match. Yeah, I
A
remember
creative,
her.
yes, a creative
Yeah.
visionary. Our CFO, our financial officer, is an owl, loves the numbers, loves the data. And so once you understand what your dominant brain type is, then it could inform you how to read faster, improve your memory, focus better, personalized around your dominant, right? Where like if you're reading, a dolphin will teach them how to picture everything easier
Mm.
because a picture is worth 1,000 words. Like for individuals, and you see this even in television. If you watch Friends, one of the most popular comedy sitcoms, you would see like, okay, Ross Geller is a scientist professor. He's an owl, loves the data, loves to study, right? Phoebe was the creative song, likes music and art. She's a dolphin, right? You would see someone like Joey, who's a cheetah, doesn't really think, just
Yeah.
acts on his
I-
intuition.
Yeah.
Someone like Monica would always host all the parties and be the center of bringing all the friends together. She would be an elephant, right? And you start seeing it. So what we encourage people to do is not only take the assessment for yourself, but your family takes the assessment. What are
Hmm.
your,
Hmm.
what are your
Yeah.
kids or your spouse or your team, your employees or your clients?
Better
Because
communication and understanding. Yes.
absolutely, because each of
Yeah.
these, and we follow up when you take the assessment with giving you data on how you could sell better, how you can learn better based on your brain type.
Yeah.
So I encourage
That's
people to look into it,
yeah.
and then even, you get this AI generated artwork based on your animal type, and then
Awesome.
people could post it. They could tag you, they could tag me on social media, and
Yeah.
because you tag us, we'll repost it because we get to see it.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah.
but it really serves people, in 4 minutes, you get to know so much more about yourself
Assessment. Yeah.
and the people around.
Jim, my last thing is in the future. You see, today people are saying that biological age becomes more important than the real age. And I think that for the brain, we should do the quick index for the brain, telling you what age is your brain and how you can reverse if you are too old and with no memories or you lost memory going backward the same way could be a great concept.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your brain age is so very important, and just know that, our work is heavily endorsed, in the book by
Hmm.
the top Alzheimer's researcher out of Harvard, Dr. Rudy Tanzi, by the Cleveland Clinic Center for Brain Health, the founding director there. But when I speak at these institutions, we know about a one-third of your brain, the potential of performance is predetermined by genetics and biology, but two-thirds is in your direct control or
Yeah.
influence. And regardless of what that percentage is, we have a lot. What I teach is the software, how to remember names, languages, give speech without notes, how to focus. That's software. But you also have to take care of the hardware, which is that 3 pound matter between your
Yeah.
ears called your brain also as well. And what I would remind everybody is there are things that will move the levers, right? Like for a good optimized brain, a good brain diet, right? You're minimizing those negative thoughts because those thoughts become things in our reality. Exercise, right? When you physically exercise, you create dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, all these neurotransmitters, so important for cognitive health and performance. You also create BDNF, brain-derived
Yep.
neurotropic factors, which is like fertilizer for neuroplasticity when you exercise. And not just exercising 3 times a week, but moving throughout the day, right? Also, brain supplementation, as we talked about, filling in those gaps that might be in your diet, or the advanced stuff for the biohacking community in terms of nootropics. Positive peer group. It's not
Hmm.
just your neurological networks, it's your social networks, because who you spend time with is who you become. Whether or not someone smokes has less to do with their biology and more do your friends smoke, or do
Correct.
your friends work out? Do they meditate, right? Are they
Yeah.
biohacking, right?
Yeah.
So that's so important. Clean environment, eliminating or reducing the neurotoxins in our environment, for the air, from our furniture, or different places, also from clean lighting or
Correct.
EMFs, right? All this is a
EMF.
clean environment. Optimizing your sleep, so very important to your brain. We discussed that's where you clean out, when you sleep, the sewage system kicks in, it cleans out the beta amyloid plaque, those things that could lead to, brain aging challenges. Protecting your brain. I've had 3 head injuries before the age of 12, and, maybe I needed to avoid, extreme sports and wearing a helmet more back then. New learnings, always learning every day. You ever
Always. Yeah.
this?
That's the main secret, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, always be learning, because
Yeah.
you have I challenge everyone to have a to learn list. And then finally, the last one I would say that really moves the needle is managing your stress, because
Mm.
chronic stress has been shown to shrink the human brain. It puts you
Yeah.
in fight or flight, which holds you hostage in your survival brain. And it's harder to access your executive functioning, your problem solving, your creativity. And so how are you mitigating the stress? Are you getting some body work done? Are you getting grounded? Are you spending time in nature? Are you meditating? Whatever those practices happen to be. But the thing is just, going through the day, ask yourself, is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain?
We forget that question so many times. Like we do think we don't even ask that question. It's a simple fact that we should do. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the
Yeah.
idea here is there's a version of yourself and your brain that's patiently waiting. And the goal is we show
Yeah.
up every single day until we're introduced, right? You change your brain, you change your life, you change your brain, you change the entire world. And so I want people to know their brain. I want them to trust their brain. I want them to love their brain. And most importantly, I want people to use their brain. You'll notice that I have a brain on my shirt. We donate all these proceeds to
Yeah.
charity, to brain health. But in photos that you and I have been, I'm always pointing to my
Yeah.
brain, because what you see, you take care of. You see your car, you see your clothes, you see
Yeah.
your hair, because it's in your constant awareness. You know when it's slipping or it's deteriorating, but we don't see the thing that takes care of us,
So,
which is our brain. So I just want, people to remind them your brain is your number one asset, and you are the pilot of your mind. You're not the passenger, right? And and treat it well, because it's the one thing that you have throughout the rest of your life.
beautiful. That's the best conclusion ever. Jim, love you, my man, honestly.
Thank you so much for having me. All right.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye. See you soon.